So explain the process of wanting to get involved and how it happened. How did you two start corresponding?
I made connections with a charity in Ireland called Lifelines, and they sort of connect you randomly with somebody like Joel who wants help and support, but from a pen pal. And I wrote an initial letter. I didn't know whether I'd hear it back.
Do they set out what you can say or what you should and shouldn't say?
They give you some guidelines as to, things you can't discuss and everything.
Because when you first sent him a letter, you didn't Google him to see what his crime was. And why was that? Why didn't you want to know?
Because I wasn't really that bothered what he'd done. It was more supporting him as a person than the crime he'd done.
But I guess that crime makes up the person that he is, does it not? So would that not be part of the information that you'd want to know?
I'd want to know it from him if he ever felt the opportunity that he wanted to share it with me. But to be honest, I wasn't really bothered about the crime. You know, he was in prison for something he either did or didn't do, so that was enough for me.
And did he discuss it with you?
No, he doesn't. No, he's asked me not to, to respect his views and everything, and not to discuss it. And I wouldn't really feel that comfortable asking him.
Well, but we will say that he shot and killed the father of his ex-girlfriend, was sentenced to death by lethal injection in 2001. So, how quickly did he respond?
Really quickly, yeah. It was a really nice surprise to actually see this letter come through from him. Yeah, it was good.
What did he say?
What do you talk about?
We talk about stuff that I talk about with any of my other friends, really. We've both got tattoos, which we talk about. We talk about gardening, how I'm growing pumpkins, and I have a diary set up, the Pumpkin Diary, which he's fascinated in. We talk about my cat, Gladys. Just all number of things that you chat about, really.
And he, because he talks awful lot about conditions whilst in prison. And there was an interesting story that came up when you spoke about your cat, Gladys, and that he, in his own way, had a pet, only for a little while, and this was a spider. What happened?
A pet spider, yeah. He found the spider in the area he sort of lives in and befriended it, and really made a pet out of this stripy black and white spider. But he recognised that he couldn't keep the spider inside, and so decided to set him free. And he said he actually missed the spider and the like little bond he'd picked up with him.
And this is also something that you're doing in conjunction with your partner. Is it Jason, your partner? Yeah. Right. Because he's writing to another inmate on the same death row, isn't he?
Yes, same prison, yeah.
So his what's his prisoner called? I had it written down there somewhere. Yeah, William Reeves.
Yeah.
Also on death row. And so the pair of you, do you discuss what each other's pen pals write to each other? Yeah,
we read each other's correspondence and talk about William's done this or Joel's done that. Yeah, so.
So, I mean, we've interviewed women on the sofa that have started out as pen pals to men in prison, and then it's grown and it's developed into something else. It's become a relationship. Even some of them have gone on to get engaged. He does know that this is purely just a friendship between the two. Did you ever have concerns about that?
No, not at all. I mean, I've written about Jason, and Joel writes back saying, say hi to Jason and Gladys for me. So, no, it's just a friendship.
And does he discuss his execution? This is a guy that's locked up for 23 hours a day. He's not in solitary, is he? Does he have
no.
Yeah. So does he think about that time?
He's never mentioned that. I mean, I guess writing to me is more of a access to the outside world. He has his sister, but he doesn't actually have anybody else. So, like in a recent letter, he's written that writing to me, receiving my letters, is just taking his mind off why he's there and his time inside.
And he's been inside, he's been on death row for 15 years now, and the average length of time for a person to be on death row is 16 years. And as you said, although you haven't discussed this with him, you would be willing to be there for him if that day were to come round any time soon.
Yeah, I'd be there it purely as a support, friendship capacity. But they're hoping to change the sort of death penalty sentence to life imprisonment, and that prison is going through changes at the moment.
I can understand why you are invaluable to him. What do you get from this? What does it give you?
It's nice to think that just writing a simple letter brings so much support and happiness to somebody. And in this world where we are now, that we use digital media and texts and everything, just that simple, handwriting a letter and telling him about the news does bring a little sort of happiness to him.
And so if he were to be executed, would you find another inmate on death row to talk to?
I would, because I can see the support. Even though I've only written it for a short time, I can see the support and encouragement that my letters have given him.
There have been people who've criticised, haven't there? I mean, even friends.
Yes.
Some of them don't understand what it is that you're doing.
No.
What do they say to you?
I just don't think they can see, why I do it. They're quite... they can't see how I can, befriend somebody who's done or accused of such a horrendous crime. But once I kind of explain why I do it and the support I offer, they do kind of understand in a way.
Would you feel the same if his crime were... I mean, it's a terrible crime, but if it were even worse, if he'd been a mass murderer, if he'd killed children, if he'd done something like that, would you still feel the same, that the crime doesn't matter, I'm just doing this for humanitarian purposes?
I think, yeah, from my own view, is I look at him as a person, like I said, rather than the crime he's done. So whatever he's done, to me, he's Joel, and he's a friend.